Hi, I'm Malcolm Roberts. And in 2007, I wrote a letter to John Howard because he was booted out, and I expressed my appreciation to him for his service over many years to this country. And in 2014, after 7 years of voluntary research, I wrote him a second letter, rescinding my first letter. And Sharon Lose, who's the candidate for Flynn, and I, who am the candidate for the Senate in this state, are going to tell you why the John Howard government did so much damage to this country. It is destroying the country still. Well, let's get to the core of the issue, because a lot of farmers think that it's the Labor government that's caused this problem, but it's not.
No.
It's actually the John Howard Liberal National Party government that kicked it off in 1996 to comply with the UN Kyoto Protocol. Remember that, the UN is driving this. And here's how they did it. In 1996, John Howard was voted into power. In 1996, the UN passed the Kyoto Protocol, which required governments to cut back on carbon dioxide production. And John Howard had a problem. He said to all people in Australia that we will not sign the Kyoto Protocol, and we all cheered. But he said quite openly and publicly, we will comply with the Kyoto Protocol. Now that required either shutting down production of power stations, industrial plants, or stopping farmers clearing land. And that would mean that the land would still be able to absorb carbon dioxide. And I'll get back to that in a minute. Now he knew that we weren't ready for shutting down our industry, although that's what's happened as a result of other things that John Howard and the Labor Party have done. So what he did was he took the soft approach, and he didn't go to the farmers, his government deceitfully stole the land without compensation from farmers across the country. Let me tell you how. What he did was he went to the Borbidge National Party government. We had John Howard, who was the Liberal Party Prime Minister, did a deal with Rob Borbidge, the National Party Premier. We had John Anderson signed the agreement along with John Howard and Rob Borbidge. He signed the agreement as Deputy Prime Minister and Leader of the Nationals in the Federal Parliament. And they signed it with Brian Littleproud, who was the Minister for the Environment. And then over here on the Liberal Party and Federal Government, we had Robert Hill, Senator Robert Hill, Liberal Party Minister for the Environment. And over here we had Howard Hobbs, who was National Party Minister for Natural Resources. Yeah. Entirely Liberal National. And what they agreed to do was to put in place restrictions on farmers clearing their land. So that meant they stole farmers' property rights, because farmers bought that land on the basis that they could develop it for crops or for whatever way they wanted to. In 1998, Peter Beattie came on the scene, and John Howard, I've seen the correspondence between Beattie and Howard. John Howard's government said basically to Peter Beattie, we'll give you hundreds of millions of dollars to stop the farmers clearing their land. So Peter Beattie enacted, under the Labor Party, the Native Vegetation Protection legislation that stopped farmers clearing the land. In 2004, Peter Beattie ramped it up. And in 2017, Anastasia Palaszczuk, we believe pushed by Jackie Trad, basically decimated the farmers by really restricting their land. And now we've got farmers facing jail. We've got farmers on criminal charges, because it is now a criminal offence. When they took your land rights, they didn't give any compensation. No. They didn't honour the court and the law of the land. They changed the law. Yes. What's happened here is that in Section 51, Clause 31 of the Federal Constitution, the Australian Constitution, it says that if property rights are taken, just terms compensation must be paid. So that's what faced the John Howard government. They couldn't steal farmers' property rights. That's why they went through the states. And Peter Beattie, in correspondence, has acknowledged that they did it for John Howard. Bob Carr has a recording of him acknowledging that he did it for John Howard to comply with the UN's Kyoto Protocol. So John Howard, to avoid paying compensation, his government went to the states, and the states enacted legislation because they don't have to pay compensation. And so they took the land, the use of that land, the right to use that land, which is what farmers paid for, they stole it and didn't pay compensation. Now that on the John Howard's government was a dirty, deceitful trick to go around the back of the Constitution, violate the farmers and steal their land rights. That is it in a nutshell. And I never thought I'd get upset about things like this, but I know that at the bottom of this is deceit by the John Howard government and by the Labor Party governments. Because all of this governance has been destroyed pandering to the UN, and that'll be the source of another video. But right now, I'm calling for restoration of farmers' property rights or compensation.
Yes.
Restoration or compensation.